Nathan.
Okay. Okay. Hi there, everyone. My name's Nathan, and I'm a codependent from the UK. Okay. So basically, I had some pretty horrific trauma when I was a kid, and that's what really started out my codependency thing, really. I've got some bullet points here, so I'm just going to try and rattle through. Okay. So 24, when I was 24 years old, I failed at film school, and I started acting out in other fellowships. In another fellowship. Then I started using escorts in another fellowship when I was 31. And at 32, I found this book online, and I went to my first primary fellowship meeting. And at that meeting, someone introduced me to a book by Pure Melody. Now, I've got dyslexia, but I read that book in a weekend, and that was Facing Codependency. And reading those two books made me realize that I had a problem. But because I was embroiled in my primary fellowship and my secondary fellowship, put on the back burner. And there's a line between my primary fellowship and CoDA. It kind of blurs a bit for me. So in lockdown, I finished my primary fellowship, went straight into a money fellowship. And then after lockdown, I got out and met a dance teacher. I started taking private lessons, and I noticed I started having issues like getting approval from her and thinking about her all the time, even though I wasn't romantically attracted to her. So I quit that, started going to public lessons, had initially a positive response, but I couldn't approach women who were attracted to me there or who I perceived were attracted to me. And whenever I would approach a woman, invariably they'd be unavailable. So this is what prompted me to go into CoDA. Yeah, I went to my first CoDA meeting. I got rejected by this woman on the Monday, went to that CoDA meeting on a Thursday, got a sponsor that evening, and by the Friday, I was having my first meeting with my sponsor. So it happened very quickly. And my experience with that sponsor didn't work out. I mean, to cut a long story short, he really trashed my recovery and he didn't have his things together. So he was quite emotionally abusive. So this is what led me to go to the US meetings. And this and I and another part, which is a big part of this, is dancing. I started dancing because I wanted to connect with people, and it was part of my primary fellowship. And I danced bachata, which is a very sensual, romantic sort of dance. And learning to dance actually allows me to practice what I learn in CoDA. So it's really great for me because I can go there and then come back at the end and journal all my characteristics. I still can't open myself up to women I'm interested in, unfortunately. And this goes. And then after having that sponsor, I went to a US meeting, which is where I met my current sponsor. And after constant conflict with my UK sponsor and constant sort of abuse and passive aggression, I began acting out in my primary fellowship and losing what I'd been up to that point, some quite consistent variety. And I met my current sponsor in a US meeting who's fantastic. And this is where I learned my first lesson in codependency, which is saying yes to what you do want and saying no to what you don't want, which is very important. And I think it's a real cornerstone of how we interact with the world as codependents.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I found my current sponsor in this meeting. Finding an American sponsor was great, but here's some tips that may help you. One, being intentional. I made a list of what I wanted, and I questioned my sponsor before we even started working about it. About this is what I want, and do we match up? I went to an online meeting in Philly, and I met my sponsor, and I put a message out for a sponsor, and I got a number straight away, which was fantastic. And I arranged a call meeting interview based on the criteria I was looking for. And My sponsor, he's at this meeting. He's an absolutely fantastic guy, and he's helped me no end. And it's always, and whenever I work with him, I feel like I'm moving forward. So over these 39 years of crap I've gone through, I feel like I'm coming out of it with him, which is fantastic. And because I feel that comfort and security with him, the working the steps is just literally, I wouldn't quite say a formality, it's a pretty big deal, but it is pretty easy, you know. And my sponsor gives me freedom to me, and he doesn't seem to want anything in return from me. He just wants me to sort of
No sé si me escuchen.
be the best I can be, which is great. And I feel like I can be open with him, and he's excellent at shepherding me through the recovery process. Okay, where I'm at in recovery, I I've had some interesting encounters with 30 questions and step three. I've met people from my past who've just come back into my life. I mean, real high power stuff. Like I met an old school friend and instantly fell in love with her, as all codependents do. And I've in my CoDA group, my home group, I've had friends, and we've constantly gone out and shared with each other to work those social muscles. Because I was very before CoDA, and I still am, you know, very socially deficient, even though I've changed and grown a lot, you know, and it's really been the number one, like the second cornerstone of my recovery, to be able to go out with my friends at least once a week after a meeting and talk and just chit chat. Even if we're not talking about CoDA, even if we're just shooting the shit, it's just really, really helpful to build those muscles. And it gives me a support to go out there in the rest of the world and do the things I actually want to do with people who aren't in CoDA, which is what for me the program's all about. Yeah, I use the tools and prayer, meditation, journaling, God box. I use all these as part of my daily recovery, and as and when I need them. So they're in they're invaluable sort of phone a friend, get out of jail free cards that I have ready to go, and I have leaned on them. Unfortunately, as I work with steps, relationships have fallen apart, and I don't know if that's God's plan, but there is one in particular with my dance teacher, which just completely dissolved, and uh, I feel very guilty in myself for fomenting that situation. And you know, but as I say, don't be hard on yourself. But I'm still struggling with not being able to walk through doors in terms of romantic and sexual partners, and picking unavailable people when I do. Okay. Currently, I'm at in step four. This is where I'm at. I'm on question 10, and all my fears are being brought to the forefront. All the niggling codependent interpersonal issues are being brought into the light. For example, authority for others, being perceived as being ostracized. And it's giving me the occasion to stand up for myself and to take all these things that are happening step four as opportunities. And they're opportunities to develop the skills that I need in order to live a healthy life, to reach our full potential. And personally, when I was doing the things in my 20s, I didn't have them. You know, I didn't have them. I didn't even know you could develop them. I just thought you came out of the box as you did. And if you didn't have it, oh well, tough. But self-sabotage and reliance on others is coming up. Standing up to people, realizing the relationships I've created in recovery are starting to go away as I'm making room for real people to come into my life. Um, yeah, experiences I've had along the way. So strangers have come back from the past into my life. Women I'm actually attracted to are starting to come into my life. I just need to start to come to them a little bit. And when I dance with someone who I think is cute, I'm okay, and I do a pretty good job, and I don't put them on a pedestal as much as I did. Uh, the minute I seem to dance someone that I'm sexually attracted to, it seems to fall apart. And I'm still working on that, getting that to where it needs to be. But I'm sure that's going to come out as recovery goes through. And in conclusion, these are the takeaways. Finding the right sponsor to work the steps has got to be your top priority. You got to make a list of what you want and think what kind of mother or father you really want, depending on what that is, to get you through that. Having friends in recovery and going for fellowship is absolutely essential. Social activities that get you out of your comfort zone and help you to spot your patterns that show up in your relationship are crucial to be able to fine tune your recovery. Using the tools to monitor your progress and record your experience, also a vital step. And being open to messages from your high power, because they really hold the key to your recovery. Yep. My name's Nathan, and I'm a codependent. And thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Nathan.